Alright, so today some vegan cooking. What we're going to do is some sweet potato and chickpea burgers with some shiritake sun-dried tomato noodles. So I'm going to dice up some celery, some onions, and some carrots. We're going to get them into the pot and saute them. Now, I've had my chickpeas soaking in the fridge overnight. So I put them in the fridge for about 24 hours in water, and they've absorbed some of the water. I'm putting a teaspoon of olive oil in my pot, nice and hot. I'm adding the onions, the carrots, and the celery. We're going to give that a nice saute. Got a tablespoon of fresh rosemary in there. Now we're going to saute that for a little while, just get nice and translucent. And our pots are great. The way they conduct the heat, nothing's going to burn. I'm going to saute them for a few minutes. And once you get nice and translucent, I'm going to add in 2 cups of the chickpeas. There's no water, dry. So they've been soaking overnight, they've expanded a little bit. There's 2 cups in there, I'm going to saute it up almost like a rice pilaf. So I'm going to cook it for a couple minutes, and then I'm going to put my spices into this thing. Now what I'm using here today, I'm going to use half a teaspoon of curry powder, some cumin, some white pepper, some paprika. So we're going to put that into the mix. The chickpeas are still completely hard. So I'm just going to saute that nicely and get a little bit pasty. You can see it's starting a little bit dry, which is what we want. I'm going to put in 2 heaping teaspoons of tomato paste. I'm going to cook that until it starts to stick a little bit to the pan. It starts to get a little bit binding. We're going to cook it into the chickpeas, and then I'm going to load it up with vegetable broth, using the Campbell's low-sodium vegetable broth. So I'm going to put enough broth in there just to cover the chickpeas completely. And what we're going to do is almost cook this like a risotto. So I have it on a medium heat. We're going to keep cooking it down and reducing it, cooking it down and reducing it. You can use a bit of water if you run out of broth at this point. So this has been cooking now for approximately 45 minutes. Okay, so it's nice and soft. Now in a different pot, what I got is some sweet potatoes. I'm putting in probably about 10 ounces of water. I'm going to put them on my pot on a medium heat. When the steam comes out of the vent, I'm going to shut the vent, cook it on the lowest heat for about 25 minutes. Then I'm just turn it off and let it sit there. Now it's nicely soft. I put them in the fridge for a few hours so they're nice and cold all the way through, right? Once nice and cold, the skin just peels right off. So I use my knife. I'm just going to give it a bit of a scrape all the skin off so it's nice and clean. And we're going to make our burgers. Now this paste that I made with the chickpeas is great. I mean, I'm going to use some of it for the burgers tonight, but you can have this as a side dish. If you're making a pasta, you can use this for a base for a sauce if you want. So for the burgers, I've taken half of one of the sweet potatoes. I'm going to take about the same amount of chickpeas that I have the sweet potatoes. The sweet potatoes are going to help bind it. So when we're cooking it, they're not falling together. So it's nice and everything's cold. And I make my patties, squeeze it together, and I'm dipping it in cornmeal. Now, the cornmeal is going to be nice because when we fry this with a bit of oil, the cornmeal is going to crisp up and help hold it together. Because in vegan cooking, we're using nothing here to bind this burger. So often enough, they fall apart very easy. So what I found is I really use lots of cornmeal and I press it right in there, and I just good layering of cornmeal. The mixture of the sweet potato and the chickpeas is a bit wet, so it'll absorb the cornmeal nicely. So I'm going to make 3 patties here. And just press them nice and tight. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to throw them into the freezer for a couple hours. They're nice and frozen. And then we fry them up when they're frozen. So I have my 3 patties here. This is from half a sweet potato. I'm going to put a little plastic on the bottom of the plate and cover it with plastic. And then that way it's not going to be sticky because there's a bit of moisture going to come out. So after a couple hours, they're frozen nicely. And I got a nice patty. It holds its shape. A little bit easier to cook when it's frozen like this, because especially when it gets into the pan, the cornmeal is going to crisp up nicely, right? So I got a little bit of olive oil in the pan. Got it just over a medium heat, right? Don't want to smoke it hot because they are frozen, so it's going to take a little bit of time to cook. And just make sure there's a bit of oil around to crisp them up nicely, right? The oil is also going to add a bit of moisture to this. Okay, after about 4 minutes, careful, they're nicely browning, nicely crisping up as well, browning nicely. Just give them a quick flip, and cook them for a few more minutes. It's been another 3 minutes, I'll cook them on the other side. Now, I'm going to add in some sliced onions, some sun-dried tomatoes, and some fresh coriander, or cilantro. Alright? So, we're just going to let that cook on the sides, and just give those onions a little bit of a stir around so they don't burn, everything's sliding around nicely. And the patties are pretty much cooked, so we're going to get them out of here. Alright, so you want to be a little gentle, because don't forget, there's nothing binding it, but they're holding the shape nicely, and the cornmeal kind of crisps it up nicely, so flip it over easily to hold the shape. I'm going to get those out of here for meanwhile, and what we're going to do is make a quick pasta in here, right? Now, vegan cooking, no, we're not using any flour. I'm using Shiritake noodles, which is heaping, and these are great. So just throw them right in the pan. The pan's nice and hot. Give them a quick toss, right? I'm going to add in here a little bit of veggie broth, just to give it a little bit more liquid here, and cooking out nicely. All right, so a little bit of seasoning, just a little bit of salt, and we're good to go. And that's what Chef Warren likes to do, is vegan cooking with these burgers and Shiritake noodles. Happy cooking.